Academy, break down the walls. Rise up, leaders, let the beat guide your way. Unlock your potential, seize the day. From the dance floor to the boardroom, let your light shine, shine. Skill Weed Academy, it's your time. Oh,
Thank you, everybody. Welcome on board. Thank you all. Let's go. Thank you, everybody. Let's go. Let's go, everybody else. Under 2 minutes we kick off. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all. Thank you
feel
all.
the drums pulsating, the energy so strong.
Thank you. Thank you,
Join the
everybody.
movement
Thank you all.
where dreams belong. From Lagos to Nairobi, hear the call. Skill Weed
Hopefully, it's an
Academy,
eventful evening for
break
you.
down the walls.
Make it a little bit fun.
In the heart of Africa,
Thank you all.
flaming
Thank you, everybody.
lights, a rhythm so vibrant.
Thanks for joining,
Sets
everybody.
minds alight.
One of our community events,
Skill
so
Weed
always a
Academy,
delight to hang out with
where
the
leaders are born.
Skill Weed family. Thank you all for joining. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Safe storm.
Give everybody else another 2 minutes and we kick off, have fun, learn one or two things together. Let's go, people. Thank you all.
Seize the day. From the dance floor to the boardroom, let your light shine, shine. Skill Weed Academy, it's your time. Feel the drums pulsating, the energy so strong. Join the movement where dreams belong. From Lagos to Nairobi, hear the call. Skill Weed Academy, break down the walls. Rise up, leaders, let the beat guide your way. Unlock your potential, seize the day. From the dance floor to the boardroom, let your light shine, shine. Skill Weed Academy, it's your time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for taking the time to hang out tonight. Make it an eventful day, the next 1 minute. Thank you, everybody. All right, as always, let's see what part of the world you're joining us from. Thank you all.
Feel the drums pulsating, the energy so strong. Join the movement.
Thank you, everybody.
Where dreams belong. From Lagos to Nairobi, hear the call. Skill Weed Academy, break down the walls.
All right, let's get started. All right, let's go. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to hang out this evening. In the next 1 hour and a few minutes, we're going to add value to each other. The goal is one of our community events. We typically do this every other week just to empower our folks with some knowledge and skills. And at the minimum, if all you learn is some additional tools to help you in an interview, to understand different perspective of how things are done, and we learn from each other, that is a win for us, really. So leave here with just one little thing, really. That's the way it is, really. We're not of the illusion we learn everything all at once. No, it's incremental phases of knowledge. And today's topic is very exciting. It's a use case that we thought made a lot of sense, relatable to most of us. Every one of us have been part of, hopefully you are not in the hospital or you visited somebody in the hospital. And believe it or not, the hospital systems is one of the largest purchaser of IT infrastructure. And especially recently, just because by law, HIPAA law, there are so many need for you to be in compliance with certain regulation. That's a big deal. Then beside that, they just have to keep our data safe to build that patient confidence in general, right? So it's a big deal, right? So you see a lot, and you know what? The hospital systems, believe it or not, they are crazily tech, really. Let's even leave the wearable device for a second. Think about all the MRI machines, CT scan machine, X-ray machines, and tons of sensors out there within the hospital space. Some robotics are even used to remotely do operation. So every one of this is a potential gold mine for a cyber attack. You can even tag them as some critical infrastructure. So it's this is big deal, right? And recently, you guys have seen and ladies have seen a lot of attack in hospital space. In the past, hospital were kind of an unwritten rule. Nobody touches hospitals, schools, right? Because it's humanitarian. But that genie is out. Maybe this year hospitals have been attacked crazy. In the past, it's mostly financial, insurance, but now it's crazy. Hospitals is just every other day you see it in the news. Some of my folks have been victim of it. They couldn't process their payroll. So it's a very significant thing. So tonight, let's just dive in a little bit, talk a little bit about some of those things. Then what we typically also do is we always have a working session. The working session, we kind of push everybody to Zoom. So be ready. We're going to do Zoom. Then we're going to play a little bit of game too. We use a tool called Kahoot. For those of you that have never used it, not a big deal. It's just a gamification tool that kind of we use it to kind of gauge our knowledge a little bit, and we make it fun as much as possible. And the younger generation are very savvy with it. They use it all the time in their schools, in their elementary and middle school. So for us to, it's a very retention driven gamification program. So I like it. So you can, we'll play with that in a bit. But before we jump into the whole thing, if you don't mind how we do it in our community, let's see, everybody, what part of the world are you logging in from? Let's see. Nana, thank you. Vaughn, let's see. What part of the world? Chala, let's see. All right. Big D in the house. Let's see. Dallas, Texas. Let's see. What part of the world are we? Let's see. Dallas, Texas. It's always a blessing. We have a lot of our community all over the world. So that is always exciting. Always exciting. Let's see. Always excited. Okay, Canada in the house. Minnesota, Katie. All right. Okay, I can see my DC folks in the house. Awesome. Choma, Dallas. Woohoo. Edmonton in the house. All right, can see a few of our folks. Thank you all. Thank you all. It's always a delight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There are many things we can be doing. At the minimum, you can grab margarita and relax. You chose to hang out with us, so we say thank you, thank you, thank you. Gainesville, Virginia, awesome. Lagos in the house, thank you. Dublin in the house. Melbourne, Australia in the house. Florida in the house. Maryland in the house. Katie in the house. Indianapolis, Nigeria in the house. Colorado, Aurora, Slovakia in the house, Nigeria in the house, Maryland in the house. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining. And one of our commitment to our community is every day, if we see value, we make sure our team is the best the world has to offer. Really, we keep pushing ourselves hard. We align ourselves with top-notch knowledge and technology out there. We brainstorm with each other. We are not of the illusion we know everything, but one thing we know for sure is that as a community, when we work together, we do great things, and we'll keep doing that. Nothing's going to stop that. So thank you, Anna in the house, Omoye in the house. Woohoo! All right, Charlotte, I see you. New York, Maryland, Massachusetts, Royce City, Texas. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to hang out. All right, so let's just jump into it real quick, folks. So you guys can, have fun. And some of you that are part of our community already, how we do it here. One thing we do well is we understand the power of community. We work together a lot. No matter how smart you are, myself inclusive, it's rare and harder to be smarter than everybody combined, right? So we leverage each other a lot in our community. So tonight, I wanted to we have a use case that we thought was very important and pretty cool that we can talk about. The scenario is very simple and straight to the point, but I think it's something that a lot of us can relate with, I believe so. And the scenario is quite profound. And what's the scenario? So currently, the hospital system is considering cloud service provider, and all of us can easily say, okay, what are the big names, in the cloud space? If you don't mind, let's see some. If you guys can give me some big names in the cloud space today, can you type it real quick? Let's see some of those big names out there in the cloud space that we can think about. Some of them are names we already know. Really, think about it. There are the big guys right out there. So we can always agree AWS, Amazon Web Service, we have the Google Cloud, we have the Microsoft Azure. So these are big names out there. Of course, Oracle is there, and we have the likes of Alibaba. We have so many other smaller organizations. Even I think Apple is into cloud space, HP, a lot of organization out there. But the big ones that most organizations use, IBM is a big one too. Yeah, you're right. So let's just limit to for tonight. We just think about maybe two, AWS, and in our case, we'll go with Azure. Now, don't I'm from Ibadan, Nigeria, West Africa. If I hear the word Azure, I'll probably call it Azure, right? So some of us will use that word, but for the purpose of experience and professionalism, make sure you use the word Azure, right? If you don't use that word, somebody's going to know that. Wait a minute, this is weird. If you call Azure. So just use the right words, okay? All right. So that part of it is cool. So think about it. Let's not get into what are the things we consider when we are making a consideration for a cloud service provider. The scenario is simple. So, and I will just give you a brief of it. A hospital system currently just acquired MRI machine, CT scan machine, X-ray machine. These are very significant machines, right? Especially with the hospital system. Now, guess what? Every one of those equipment is going to be also deployed into your network. The network is simply connectivity of multiple devices. We could have your printers connected, your wearable devices, your watches, right? Your fridge, your TV, our home features generally, right? So laptop, desktop, everything is connected to the network. So in the hospital system, it's similar. But now we're talking of some of their critical equipment will be deployed to the network. So that's very significant. Let's think for a second, because think for a second. If a malicious actor compromise a MRI machine, think for a second, or a CT scan machine that could alter a result for an oncology patient, a cancer patient. And think for 1 second, a millimeter inaccuracy for a tumor on a cancer patient is life threatening. This is serious stuff, right? So it is very critical to think along the line of protecting those devices also. This is very, very critical. And that's the way hospital system will look at it. If it's financial sector, you're looking at financial record, but sometimes these are critical things that has real life ramification. Sometimes life can be lost. In the case of the attack that happened to some hospital system, they lost light. They could not continue some operation, and because of that, or there was a delay in you know um, dosing some of your patients. I'm curious to see the correlation of death that was as a result of that particular attack. I bet you there will be a few people that lost their life because of the short time delays, in reading their charts or providing them critical care during an urgent time. So it's very significant, right? We can agree on that for at a minimum. So let's talk about some things we can think about and agree as a team and say, before I select a cloud service provider, for example, in my mind, I have to think of some basic things. Number one, in my mind, I'm thinking of how exactly is the security of this cloud service provider? And are they even in compliance? Because at the end of the day, many times one of the biggest things that consume a lot of people is at the end of the day, if we are not in compliance, regulators are going to come after us. It's going to lead to reputational damage. We get fined. Then everybody is really um, losing. And sometimes it leads to loss of life. Then scalability and flexibility is not enough to tell me you're a cloud service provider. If I cannot decide to, if we have bigger equipment or we have more location, can we scale it? It's a big deal for me also. Then what about the data management? All our patients record, if it's vast information, you will agree with me that MRI, anything that has to do with images tend to consume a lot of space. So if your cloud service provider cannot manage MRI results on their cloud, then that's a big issue for me, especially if it's, and I use oncology patient because oncology patients typically they have tons of severe adverse events, SAEs or adverse events. So they have a lot of underlying condition. They go through a lot of therapy, X-rays, consistent consumption of data. So they have a lot of information on every chart of an oncology patient, right? So because of that, you need a cloud service provider that can actually store those information without any concern with storage. So that's a big deal, right? In general, also. Some key consideration, of course, we can agree. What about the vendor selection process? Meaning, before we choose any of these vendors, what is our consideration as a whole, right? Then, of course, I can agree. If they don't have security and privacy, then it's a no-no for me. There's nothing to even talk about, really. If my, cloud service provider that is coming towards my organization does not even have security and privacy as a consideration, then that's a big no for me as an organization, right? Then potential long-term partnership. Let me tell you what I've seen, and some of you agree with me. Most organizations would always be conservative. The conservativeness does not mean it's necessarily right. Because a client's name is a big global player does not mean they could not be attacked. How many of us can remember one of the big companies that was attacked like 3 months ago? Type the name. Let me see if you guys remember. If you guys are following the news, this is a big player, right? It was a big embarrassment. Can you guys just type the name if you guys remember? Just this happened about 3 months ago. All the whole world just went crazy. Let's see if you guys remember. It's public information, but I don't want to say the name yet. Let's see if you guys can type it. This was a global thing. They pushed out this. Yeah, Christy got it right. Yes. Yep, that's a good one. Yep, that's right. Juliana, Christy. Yep. All of us can agree CrowdStrike was a big one. That Snowflakes was also Snow was a big one too. Yeah, Microsoft had their own fair share. So the truth is that because a vendor is a big player does not mean you assume they are fine. However, I'll tell you one trick though, one secret. Maybe it's not secret, but the reality is that most leadership in organization always take the easy way because who is going to fire you if I use a big vendor like Microsoft and they are a victim of an attack? The industry kind of pardon you because it's a big name. But guess what? Imagine you're using a startup company and they got attacked. You're going to likely be fired immediately. But there are some unwritten rule. If it's the big players, you kind of just give them a wink and just say, well, okay, it's the whole world is affected, so it's okay. You get a little pat on the back. But that does not mean because it's a big name, they are not constant. In fact, to be honest, the big names are the biggest target of attack because one, they have more funds. Two, they can milk it and embarrass you more. So it's even a bigger threat, really. So it doesn't mean because it's a big name, you just say, well, it's a big name, they are good. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. So it might be a big name, but it doesn't mean that they are good. They could also be really, really in big mess, even though they are a big name. So just be mindful of that also. Very, very important. We are knowledgeable about that too. All right, let's talk about this again. What are some general best practice in general for us to just always consider? Always think from a perspective of what is the need of our organization for a start, right? That is going to be a very, very big one to, you know, constantly assess to. Are we doing vendor evaluation? Meaning, before you jump on a vendor, are you evaluating this vendor? And I'll tell you why it's important, right? The conventional wisdom is that, and tonight, in a bit, you're going to do a quick exercise. We always work as a group. You see it in a bit, and you see how we just quickly just do a quick evaluation. Very simple, straight to the point. But the point is that sometimes evaluating a vendor is as simple as it sounds. You check certain well established guideline within your organization that you're using to evaluate this vendor, and you see if the vendor meets those requirements. As simple as that. And you make comparison. I mean, sometimes we overthink this, to be honest. It's like you too, you want to get two plumbers to come and help you in your house. You're checking their review, you're checking the specific of what they've done or what they can do. That's it, really. You're checking if they have bad reviews, good reviews, financial stability. You're checking all those basic things too. The same thing for big organization. I hope they are doing their homework. I hope they are doing their due diligence because many times the embarrassment that could happen for you as a big organization can bring your leadership to their knees so quick, so significant. The poster child for this is always for those of us that are in this space, Target retail store. One of the largest retail store in North America, big organization, and it was such a big embarrassment. I mean, all their leadership quit over an AC servicing unit. So they just did regular maintenance and they gave them access to their network and they used that vulnerability to access their point of sale and over 100 million record of I believe 100 million records of customers were stolen or about that. Huge embarrassment, and at the end of the day it was hard to really come out clean because it was a global national scandal for a start. It became like a congressional hearing thing. So it's a big deal. So sometimes a little mistake can really bring down a multi-billion dollar organization. So very important. Compliance verification. Why is this important? Let me tell you, for those of us that we do interviews on third party, for example, a common question we've seen recently is they're going to ask you, all right, here's the case. One of your strategic vendors, and for every one of us, when you work in any organization, you would have ways you tier your vendors. You would have them tier one, there will be strategic vendors, tier two, maybe high risk, tier three, just medium risk. Whatever your tiering system, everyone is different. But if it's a tier one, mostly, these are very critical vendor to your organization, meaning you can't screw this up. If you mess this up, we're going to be in trouble, right? So it's a big, big deal for us as an organization. So in those kind of situations, what I've seen a lot is that they will ask you, okay, you have a strategic vendor, and we use a report called SOC 2 Type 2. And don't stress it if you don't know what that means, no big deal. All it's saying is that are they following cybersecurity controls and has it been independently verified? A third party does the SOC 2 Type 2 report. So you are asking if that has been done. If they tell you no, okay, fine. It was not done, but the follow up question is that what else would you require of them if they've not done that? So typically you can say, well, it means they are messed up. I threw them out. No, not necessarily. They could have done other things. They could have done ISO certification. They could have done NIST assessment for all their controls. They could have done audits. They could have done whatever they've done. They could have well established policies and procedures built already, right? They could have done so many things already. So it's not a blanket statement to say you automatically just throw them out and say they are not strategic vendors. So the mindset and what the interviewer is expecting is you give us options of things you can also request for to get you to a comfort space. Those are the key things they are looking for. Another one is risk management strategy for all of us here. In a bit, I'll show you guys. We're going to do part of what we're going to do quickly later is just a quick risk assessment. You guys will see it, no big deal, very straight to the point. The whole idea is that at the end of the day, for any organization, and I challenge everybody, always remember this in any meeting, any organization you go to in the world, if you're always a person screaming and saying, was a risk assessment done? They respect you because you understand strategy and business. Because most environments find themselves in trouble because they simply ignored risk assessment. Huge deal. It's simple. It might take you a few days or hours. Now with automation, maybe faster. But all you are saying is that have you assessed the risk? All right. So easy. You're telling me, hey, I'm moving to a new neighborhood. All right, good. Awesome. All right. Have you thought about the risk? I don't know. It's a cheap neighborhood. Okay, great. Congratulations. Um, what is the crime rate? Uh, I didn't think about that. What about the risk to kids? Can your kids just walk up and go to school themselves? I've never thought about that. So even all of us subconsciously we do risk assessment on our daily life. So, okay, what about I'm taking a ride back to my work, and I realized there are certain places there's always construction there. So in your mind, you're also doing the risk assessment. You're assessing the risk. So all of us daily, whether you agree or not, we're all subconsciously assessing risk in our day-to-day life. There are certain places you don't want to go in the night because you feel, well, I'm not sure. I don't want to go to pump my gas in the night because of it's risk assessment. You're assessing the risk. So the same thing for so you now imagine for a second a multi-billion dollar organization. I expect you to do risk assessment. I think it's a big deal. So you should do risk assessment, right? That's the old gist about it. Monitoring and optimization, what does that mean? It simply means that at the end of the day, are we monitoring all activities within the business? In this case, my cloud service provider, their performance, and to make sure they are maintaining peak performance all the time. Those are things people are thinking about all the time. So let's talk about define requirements. So at the end of the day, we are thinking about need assessment in my if I'm in hospital system. What are our needs? What kind of storage do we care about? Do we need? What is the kind of infrastructure we have in terms of our network, our systems? What is our compliance requirement? All of us can agree. If you are in hospital space, HIPAA is a big one. I trust is a common one too. Then scalability and performance, meaning what about if we buy a competitor and we scale? Now we are from 1,000 bed hospital system, we are 5,000 globally or all over the US now. Can we scale? Those are the questions you're going to ask for sure. All of us would probably ask that. Then, for the vendors I'm comparing, I'm thinking some things. What are the security features, their compliance requirement, their data management, interoperability, then performance in general? These are the things I'm asking all the time, And you guys will see it in a bit when we see the actual thing. Security and privacy, all of us, wherever you live in the world, I think we can agree sometimes a buzzword, you know. I've been to clinic, I'm sure some of you too, and the receptionist will call your name, and they will call your name out and they will say date of birth, and they will, sometimes you want to say, can we just keep this low? But the voice is so high, they will call you, okay, tell me your date of birth. And right behind me, I have all these people there. I expected to use discretion and kind of low it down, but some people just blow it up and say, okay, date of birth. But the point is that that's a violation, really, of HIPAA. And we'll get it for those of us taking our program, you see a lot of stuff like that. So in this case, for example, we are thinking of security in general, encryption. Don't overthink it. All of us can agree. Most of us use WhatsApp because of encryption, right? That okay, it's secured. You don't want someone to be able to tap information as you're sending it back and forth. Access control. Keep it simple. How do you access my system? Do we have password? Do we have biometrics? Do we have multi-factor authentication? Do we have role based? Is it defined by roles? Sometimes we overthink this thing, really. It's all around us already. None of us, even for our kids' laptop, they use user ID and password. Yeah, they are your kids, you probably bought the laptop, but they still have their user ID and password, right? And their phone too. So those are access control. They use user ID, they use password, they use biometrics. Those are access control, you know. And sometimes when we have some of us that have kids that you give access to YouTube, there are roles. There's for children, there's for adults, so you can assign the roles based on the profile of the person you are giving that role. So that those are the same thing, really. At the end of the day, privacy is a big deal, right? Now, believe it or not, all of us, whether you know it or not, we are hooked. All of us use Ring at home. The tool for your ring in front of your house with the camera. Your fridge has TV. Your TV has camera. Your laptop has camera. Your wearable device has camera. Everything has camera. Guess what? What about if it's compromised? So privacy is gone. Now, some of us that travel, guess what? Now at the airport, all you need to do is just to show your face, and the scanner just put all your information. So we're all in it already, really. That's the reality of it. So It's a different conversation, regulation around it, how it's used, disclosure. That's a different story. But those are big concerns. If a cloud service provider is coming to my organization, I want to make sure they have all of those mechanisms in place. So as simple as that. Review, compliance, and certification, those are big deal. So we are saying that for you, if you're a cloud service provider, I want to see the certifications you have in terms of making sure independent groups are validated, you have the right security controls in place. So those are big ones. Risk and liability, yes, we can agree. What about liability coverages? All of us can agree insurance is a big deal now. In cybersecurity, we have cyber insurance. It's a big, big deal right now because I mean, when I talk to CISOs for any assessment I do, one of the top question I need to know is that do you guys have cyber insurance? You better have cyber insurance, really, because I mean, you can imagine someone not having cyber insurance and you're attacked and it lasts for a week and you're a retail store. Think of the loss on its own. That is crazy. You just can't even you can't attempt not to have stuff like that. So that's a big deal there. What's the process around negotiation of your contractual protection? The big one is service level agreement. If you don't mind, can we all type service level agreement real quick? SLA. SLA is just think about it as simple as that. SLA is saying, hey, at the end of the day, this is what we agreed to. Now, hold on. Many times it does not come up, right? It comes up when there's crisis. Everything is fine until there's crisis. And oh, if you've been in leadership in any tech world, you would have some. I'm almost 90% sure you've had your fair share of crisis. There's gonna be crisis at some point. Contract will go south definitely at some point. And the only thing you can throw back to your contractor is your service level agreement or your master service agreement. There must be, or your statement of work, whatever you guys call it. You have to find something you've defined to measure and say, okay, guys, when things go south, okay, here we go. This is what we agreed on. This is your signature. Because everything is cool until there's crisis. Then you start seeing fine print. Somebody will remind you, oh, you signed this. It's not a good feeling, but that's the reality. That's what comes up. But you need to protect your organization. That's a big deal, right? Um, Prioritize security features. Everything we do at the end of the day, I don't care what kind of system you're setting up. We need to know security by design was factored in. Can we all type security by design real quick? Security by design. Everybody, can we say security by design real quick? Security by design. If you don't mind, can we just type it real quick? Security by design. And the whole concept of this is if you understand this model, your mind will always shift. You'll think different because what you're saying is that I don't care what you build. Have you factored in security in the process? Big deal. Very significant, actually, really. Whatever it is, it does not matter. Gone are the days we can, let me give you some history context. In the past, what people do is that you design stuff, security guys come in later, they start testing. Not anymore. Before you design, while you're designing, we are part of the design. What you're building, we are putting in security from beginning to the end. So there's no overlap. It's not like we're waiting. No. As you're doing your stuff, security is integrated by design in the process, in the whole Now they're even thinking not just security, privacy by design. So security is there, privacy is also integrated there to make sure we're protecting privacy for what you're designing upfront. Amazing, amazing concept, but it's pretty cool. All right, let's quickly jump to another one real quick. And another big one that I would like to just quickly jump to is sometimes think about it, and this is a popular thing I've seen out there. Okay, we'll just quickly talk about some best practice around it. So many times people ask you and say, "Okay, wait a minute, let's talk about we want to, you know, do a risk assessment." And hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're just saying we're assessing the risk. What are the steps? If you are deploying equipment to a network, we want to assess the risk first, right? So, okay, fair point. Okay, what do we do? Some best practice in general. Number one, identify the asset. What are the assets we're even talking about? In this case, we're saying, okay, MRI, CT scan machine. We are moving them into our digital assets, right? So we're thinking of what are the network endpoints we are connecting it to. Don't overstress it. But these are the things people are thinking about in general. What are the assets? Then, second thing, threats. What are the potential threats that can actually you know, affect this equipment. In our case, we all agree. I don't know if you guys are, if you followed the news in the past, one of the biggest thing in the world, in I used to be responsible for critical infrastructure. We call it operation technology, right? OT. And one of the biggest one in the world, the big story was some years back, I think over 13 years or so, the Iranian had a nuclear reactor they were building, and allegedly the West and the Israeli Mossad installed a malware into the centrifuge through a flash drive. The centrifuge lost, they started going really fast and started exploding, and it delayed the program by, I believe, if I remember then, over 4 years, right? Because of that. So now we're talking about hardware. These are real life stuff. Put that into a scenario for a dam. Imagine somebody attacking a dam, right? And make the flow of water to overflow. So this is serious stuff, right? Then think of it for people manufacturing drugs, right? Imagine somebody changing the dose, and you're not aware of it because they've installed a virus from 20 mg to 10 mg, reducing the dose, and everything looks fine. And this is for, let's say, oncology patients. So think about the real life ramification. This is serious stuff, but this is the reality. This is where we are really in our world. We've not even touched AI, right? But these are the things we're talking about. We're identifying the threat. AI is probably part of the threat to start thinking about big time too. Assess the impact, meaning if this happens, what's going to be the impact on our business? The hospital system in the US, let's say in North America, this year were caught off guard. A lot of hospital system had no choice but to go manual. Some of them did not get payroll for 2 weeks. It's a serious stuff. It's crazy. It's as crazy as it could ever get. Go check the news. Go check. It's crazy stuff. I knew some folks that were impacted directly. They couldn't get their payroll process. They had to start writing stuff manually. It was so stressful for the doctors, the nurses. A lot of people started quitting. Some of them are on this call. A lot of people are in healthcare in this call. This is reality. This is your hospital, but this is what happened. These are the day-to-day issues that can impact organization. Is real life, right? At the end of the day, these are use cases. This is not fiction. It's not some cyber is real. It's business, it's life, it's government, private, school, hospital. This is it. This is our world. This is the reality of it, really. So it's a very significant. So we see the impact, then the likelihood. Let's pause for a second. The likelihood is the big one. So let's take this for example. If you walk in the Pentagon and somebody asks you, all right, some of our major nuclear reactors are not connected to the network, rightfully so, because it has to be isolated. If it's connected to the network, it's more vulnerable, right? It's a big deal. However, there's a risk. They are standalone on their own. They mostly install flash drive there. So the risk is high if a flash drive is installed in a critical infrastructure like a nuclear reactor. The likelihood, though, we are talking about Nebraska, a desert. The likelihood of you getting through all of the guardrail is probably low. It's not totally out, but it's probably low. I will make a case for that. Now, maybe insider risk, an inside job, but for someone to just walk in there and just get in there, it's probably really low. The impact, though, if it happens, the impact is going to be high. It's going to be devastating, right? But the likelihood is very low. You get what I mean? So that's the whole idea about the way we have to think about it. We can't eliminate risk. Now, one of the challenges I've seen when you do risk assessment is that never do a risk assessment without having your initial thought about the risk yourself before you make it public. If you do that, you're going to spend days and weeks because people will never agree on anything. So always make sure you come up with some ideas, then you tell them, hey guys, this is my thought. If you disagree with it, you can always give me your own feedback and start with a baseline, or else you're going to be stuck and it will be a nightmare. I had one I did a while back and it took 2 months. It's a disaster because we never, we meet maybe once a week, 1 hour or whatever, and we just never agree on anything. And the crazy thing, we were like 8 people on the call all the time. So it was like people were just butt heading on everything. It was just crazy. So I learned my lesson that, hey, don't do that because it will just waste your time. You would never always agree on everything, but just make sure, start with the baseline. This is what you think. If you disagree, tell me why. Just create a section to for people to tell you why, and that's all. It's easy, straight to the point. Calculate the risk. Now, many times, every organization has a way they calculate their risk. The way the generic score is multiplied the impact by the likelihood to calculate your risk. We have some template we use in our program, very straight to the point, very easy to use. And for my folks, you'll see that for sure. Prioritizing risk. All of us can agree for risk. Typically, there are four ways I've seen it done. People start with critical, high, medium, low. Those are the typical things. Now, your organization might decide to do their own different, not a big deal. If that's what they do, align with it. We all agree if it's critical and high, those should be the priority. Medium and low, we can take care of that later. So critical means critical. Just go for it right now. Take care of it immediately, right? Um, Mitigating risk. Let's talk about this. Very important. Don't ever just come and tell me about the problem. Anybody can tell me about the problem, about the risk. What are we going to do about it? How do we mitigate the risk? Those are the key things I need to care about. Tell me, how do we fix it? You know, it's not, don't just list the problem. It's not value to me, really. The value is, give me some ideas on how to mitigate the risk. Assign owners. It's not enough to tell me, oh, yeah, who's going to fix it, though? We have to have an idea of who's going to fix it, and we have to constantly review it regularly, communicate to the right stakeholders all the time, always learn and improve every time. Just make sure we learn and improve, and more importantly, act swiftly. Just go ahead and act and straight to the point. Don't waste your time. Just execute immediately. All right. So the next time I'm just going to quickly chat is, let's get to the meat of it. Everything we've done sounds good, but let's talk about the meat of this. Let's start with something that I think is very, very critical. Some of you have never seen a sample of this, but let me just show you for the purpose of some of us that have never seen it. Every organization normally will do assessments and audits, a pen test, whatever it is. What that will contain is the list of issues they've noted or findings. The findings will say, these are the concerns, these are the challenges we've seen. They will give you all the breakdown in general, right? At the end of the day, that is your biggest asset most of the time. If you want to figure visibility to a company, an organization, ask them, do you guys mind? Give me a sample of your previous audit report, sample of your assessment, sample of your needs, whatever it is, or SOC 2 report. Always start with that. The beautiful thing about that is that it gives you a baseline to know the problem they faced already. It will never start blind. Everybody on this call, if you're working as a professional already, if you've never done it, make sure you go ask, go check the previous audit report. It will open your eyes because you would immediately just have a heads up on the problem your company has right there, right there, right there. So this is, in this case, I asked and said, okay, give me a summary of all your issues. And they said, oh, okay, yeah, this is what they've had in the past. They noticed inadequate encryption protocol in their environment. What did they do? They implemented a good encryption, um, you know, model in their environment. AES 256 encryption, pretty good. The other thing they found was there was frequent service downtime. That's a big deal. It means they're always having issues with their system. So what did they do? All right, they ensure vendor prioritize uptime guarantees and redundancy feature. This is great. All right, what about compliance? They found insufficient audit trail and access control measures. So it means that if you are doing stuff, I cannot trail activities around it. That's a big gap, right? Okay. So for me now, that gives me some information about this organization. Okay, great. I also noticed integration failure. They had issue with integration with different system, their medical record and an archiving and communication system. Okay, all right, that's noted. Another thing I noticed is okay, um, they have cost overrun, you know. So this is a big deal because they are, at this point, I may not care because I'm not in their upper management, but this is what they've seen as a gap. That is a baseline. So here's where we come in, which is sweet. And some of you, all of you, you should have this data already, this information. This is where we come in, guys, ladies. This is where we come in. So this is where we come in. We're going to come in here and say, okay, first thing we're doing here is that we're looking at saying, okay, what is the evaluation criteria for us? We have two vendors we're comparing. And for those of us that don't know what this is vendor comparison we're going to do right now. It's not a big deal. Every time we do this already, if you need to bring in two photographers to take your kids' picture on their birthday, you check their profile. The same thing here, I'm checking their profile. However, look at the four criteria I'm using in my case, or five criteria: security and compliance, performance and scalability, the cost efficiency, integration with hospital system, vendor support and ecosystem. I also use something called a maturity model to score them. Let's keep it simple. One means it's horrible, five means optimal. Really good. So this is the range it is. You can see your initial, manage, define, quantitatively manage, optimize. For my guys in our program, our CMMI, the same thing. So the next thing you see here is that this is an example of what the CMMI looks like, right? But look at the evaluation. Let's get into the evaluation real quick. You can see here, first one, you can notice here in our case, let me show you. So you can see for the question, does the vendor provide HIPAA compliance service? Our data encryption, I kind of broke it down and look at their response. So this is for AWS and Azure. So for the first one, I scored him 4. Second one, I scored 4.5 based on their response. Okay. Now you might disagree with it, but that's the way I kind of looked at it and said, okay, this is the way I felt based on the response of their questionnaire. So if you are assessing a vendor, you send them a questionnaire, right? And they'll give you their feedback. And based on their feedback, you can assess and say, okay, does this make sense to me? If it does not, it does not really. You would make the judgment call yourself. Look at the second one, ladies and gentlemen, performance and scalability. Look at this. In my case, I said, can the platform handle large data sets from MRI, X-ray, and CT scan? AWS said AWS offers a highly scalable infrastructure capable of handling large data sets from imaging machine. Good. Azure said we offer efficient data transfer with scalable options for handling large data sets in a healthcare setting. The difference here was that they specified healthcare. I bet they could do it both ways, but they kind of tilted me because it sounded like they scaled it for huge data file coming from the healthcare sector with all the images, MRI, CT scan, and those kind of data set, right? Now, it doesn't mean that's the right way, but that's the vibe I got. Okay, because of that, I give it 4.2. So let's take this for example, cost efficient. We can work together as a team, right? Real quick. So, and you can feel free to type. Let's take cost efficient here. What is the total cost of ownership for both initial setup and long term operation, including data storage and transfer? Let's take the first one. AWS provide flexible pricing, but can become costly with long-term extensive data storage and transfer needs. That's for AWS. Azure pricing is competitive with flexible option, but overall cost can also increase with storage scaling. So how do we score them? What do you guys think we should score AWS in this case? Let's start with AWS, then we go to Azure. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You can go ahead and type before we go to our working session. What do you guys think? Let's just do one together. Then we'll now for all of us, let me just quickly tell you, we always go to Zoom for our working session. So please be careful. We'll never call you for any pin or anything like that. So beware of anyone that calls you and say, "Oh, we are cyber folks. Don't fall for scammers." Okay. But let me quickly do something before. If you guys can see the screen, everybody, let's see if you guys can see the screen. I just sent you guys a Zoom meeting. What we normally do is that when we want to do the working session, we always move to Zoom. All right. If you got that Zoom, and I'm going to forward the Zoom to all the groups we I sent information to earlier. So we're going to switch to Zoom now for working session. All right. Just for the purpose of working. So make sure, let's quickly do that. Again, please beware of scammers. Will never call you for. Okay, I like that. Some of you are already scoring me, but let me quickly send the Zoom call to you all so that we can always have it. And just, I'm going to send it to you guys. We'll go to our working session in the next 2 minutes, 5 minutes or so. But let me just send it. Check all your groups for the groups we met earlier on. If you are not on our community group, you might not get it. So that's why I showed it right here. I'm posting it to all our groups right now. So you guys, we're going to move to Zoom right now. We use Zoom so that we can all have access to a group. We always group ourselves and we like to present, but it's just fun. We get to see other people's perspective and we enjoy those interaction together. Now, I warn you already, don't fight, okay? Those group can be a little bit feisty, and we can always get a bit feisty on those group. But don't. I'm sending the information right now. You guys will have access to it. Let's go. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I think I sent to most of us already. Okay. So we're gonna work on that now. One more thing before I push us to the group in a bit is for those of you that there's another thing we'll do once we're done with that. Very straight to the point. We're gonna do a risk assessment. Mostly for the risk assessment, we're gonna say the risk level, the likelihood, the impact. In our case, I said data breach was the likelihood. I said medium, impact is high. Service downtime was the likelihood. Low, impact is medium. Just do the last three. That's all. And that should be good enough. Now, for some of you, before we get to the group, let's see if a lot of you have asked me about the upcoming class also. So for the upcoming class, it kicks up October 5th. We're excited about that. And really, we get very deep at that point in time. So we're excited about that too. So just, I mean, come with an open mind. It's always a very refreshing time. A lot of you have asked me a lot about it. We get into it very, very much deeper. You guys will leave here with solid skills. It's going to be 5 weeks, and I believe we have extra 2 days, two additional class after that, 3 times a week, Saturdays, Sundays. Saturday 2 to 4:30 Central Time, Sunday 2 to 4:30 Central Time, Wednesdays 8 to 9:30 Central Time. Then yeah, just frequently asked question, do you need to have IT background? No, you don't. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure we have a class we've provided to you. It's a free class. The Eagle class, it's a class we give as a security awareness program. Take it also, it's just a good one for you. Do you need IT background? You don't. Do you need to be a US citizen? You don't. However, if you are looking for a government job, you need to have US citizenship. We help with resume building, the first draft. We have prompt to get you there. Then we optimize the resume. We have a segment called the Lions Den. Some of you have been part of our Lions Den. It's an amazing, amazing community. We just prepare our folks for interview. The last 3 months has been amazing. I can't tell you why. Honestly, I wish I could, but I'll take it. We've had about 18 offers in 3 months. Now, it's not always going to be like that. I know, I get it. But anytime we see those moments, we take it. Some people think because of the attack happening a lot recently, so people are more aware of it. Now, it's not automatic. We are transparent here. It's a lot of work. We put the discipline, the focus. As long as we do that, we'll be fine. Let me see some other questions out there. Do we? What's required of you? Put the time, put the discipline, be focused. Good things always happen when we do that together. And let's see what else. Okay, there's payment option. A lot of you have asked about that. Very straightforward. If you go to the One other thing is a lot of you ask me is okay, when you go to the website, just go to skillway.com, very straightforward. And when you get to skillway.com, just click on start learning and you have access to the class. And this is the class here that we're talking about. And you just simply go, the options are there. Make sure you use the coupon code that we provide to you so you can get 10% discount. I believe before early Monday or so, it's still valid. If it's not valid, let me know if it's not right now. But so that's it. Very straightforward, straight to the point. And the option of affirm, option of Cash App, whatever option is available there. So, but anyway, so let's jump back. If you guys don't mind, let me quickly, if you've seen the Zoom link, do me a favor. Can you just give me thumbs up? I just sent the Zoom link to you so that we can switch to the other side. If you've seen the Zoom link, give me a thumbs up. Oh, you guys already have the Zoom link. Oh, look at you all. Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, folks. And if you don't mind, just jump into the next segment, but it's going to be on Zoom. I've copied the link again. Let me make sure I send the link to you guys again. Um, this is the link I just sent to you all. Okay. I would meet you all at the Zoom link. And thank you all for showing up in this segment. If you can't join that link, that's okay. We'd love to see you there because it's going to be another blast. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the evening if you can't make it. But for others, I'll see you guys in the Zoom link right now.